This is Jack Fishman behind the camera speaking with music director Sebastian about the 2011-2012 season. The very last concert, you conclude with Bruckner Symphony No. 7, a composer that isn't played as much in the United States, maybe as it is in Germany, a composer that is perhaps misunderstood, and one I know you think is a very important and you're very passionate about. Tell us a little bit about Bruckner and his 7th Symphony.
Yeah, Bruckner, I think this misunderstanding of Bruckner started very early. When he started composing already, he had a lot of friends who would tell him, oh, you have to change this, you have to change that. So we have nowadays sometimes 3, 4, 5 different versions, and in these versions there are different versions. People told him to change. No, oh, this can't be possible. No, you can't write like this. You know, the conductors who would perform, and now what we're doing nowadays is going back to the roots and really finding what Bruckner really wanted, because actually he, at the end of the day, he wasn't sure what he wanted because so many people talked him out of certain concepts. Which is actually an interesting approach, because I think we all suffer from that all the time. You should always follow your gut feeling, and then people talk you out of it, and usually you make the wrong decisions. And Bruckner is a great example for that. But nowadays we have good material, we're clear, and we know what his sometimes first intentions were the best are. The reception of Bruckner nowadays, I think, is also has this understanding, oh, this is heavy Germanic, depressing music, which it is not. I think his scherzos and his slow movements, for example, are one of the most uplifting music ever written. Sometimes with a lightness that is, I could only bring it close to Franz Schubert or even Johann Strauss, because it comes out of this Viennese spirit, though he was born in Linz but lived most of his life in Vienna or St. Pölten. And the other problem is, I think, for our audience is that we don't play Bruckner. So every time a program in Bruckner is also in Australia, people say, oh, this is box office poison. I say, yeah, so how do you know that? I mean, the last time San Antonio played a Bruckner Symphony, is it 20 years ago? And it was only the Symphony No. 4, so you call that box office poison. You don't even know it. I think I see a big potential here in this city to actually create a Bruckner society of groupies who just are waiting for our next Bruckner cycle.
Now, Bruckner was an organist by training.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit unusual. You think of lots of famous composers who are pianists. Do you hear that in his music?
You hear it in definitely, because his concept of orchestration is very organ influenced. Again, here he doesn't have this, what romantic composers do, these big long crescendos, meaning big long waves of getting louder and louder and louder. With Bruckner, it's usually, big sharp differences of contrasting dynamics. Something you use when you play the organ. You pull a different register and all of a sudden you have the tutti button and every single pipe in the organ is activated, or you go back to something very intimate. And that happens in his orchestration quite a lot, and also the way he sustains, or he wants notes to be sustained, is a very influenced by what he hears when he plays the organ, which I think is not a weak, actually it's a very interesting way of orchestrating. Another composer was like this was César Franck, and you can hear this in his D minor symphony. It is a different world.
He was also a great organist.
He was a great organist, and Schubern's orchestration has to be also understood from his piano background, And if you see his piano music, you have a lot of activity, in the fingers in the middle, with interior voices that are extremely active, while you have to see bass line on the melody on the top, or sometimes it switches there, but there's always a lot of activity around something that is very lyrical and melodic, and that is the same in his orchestral writing.
Now, Bruckner took one thing from Wagner, and that's a very special brass instrument, and that will also be featured in the Seventh Symphony.
The Wagner tuben, so they are called Wagner tuben because they're developed for the ring cycle, and they actually are a cross between a tuba, that's why they're called tuben, and the horn. They're played by horn players because they have a horn mouthpiece, and they have a very extremely soft, mysterious quality that he uses, especially Bruckner uses for slow and soft passages a lot. When we reach, this mysterious level of developing slowly and with a lot of gravitas, with a lot of I would say grandeur also, a majestic theme that in the brass that has no harsh attack at all. And the Wagner tuben are very tricky instruments to tune, hard to adjust, and I think our horn players are actually really looking forward to that, because it's like a great horse. It's very hard to ride it, but once you know how to treat it, you don't want to miss it. And this is a fabulous example of a tricky but very rewarding instrument.
So that will be featured Bruckner Symphony No. 7, June 1st and 2nd, 2012. Thank you.
Thank you.